Have you ever witnessed a perfect moment? The kind they write about in fairy tales? This was supposed to be one of them. St. Ignatius Church bathed in the golden light of a perfect afternoon. Every lily was pristine, every pearl in the bride's gown placed with precision. It was a masterpiece of an event. But fairy tales have a dark side, and the most beautiful facades often hide the deepest cracks. This is Elara. To the 200 guests whispering in the pews, she is a vision, the blushing bride. But if you could look into her mind, you'd hear a different story. A story not of a heart soaring, but of a mission nearing its end. 3 years, she thought. 3 years of guiding his career, of opening doors he never even knew existed. Today it all becomes official. Today he gets the final key. The key was a contract with Elara Industries, a corporate titan. A deal she had orchestrated from the shadows, the final piece of the empire she was building for him, for them. And there's Maya, the best friend, the brilliant cake designer who poured her heart into this edible monument to love. See how she smiles at Elara? A smile that said, "I'm so happy for you." A lie woven in buttercream and fondant. The air was thick with the scent of roses and expectation. Everything was perfect. A little too perfect. And then the first thread pulled. A nervous attendant named Lily approached the radiant bride, her voice a tremulous whisper. "Ms. Elara, I'm so sorry to bother you. But we can't find Mark." Elara's serene mask did not break, but a tiny fissure appeared in her eyes. A flicker of annoyance. "What do you mean you can't find him?" "Check the groom's suite. He's probably just nervous." "We did, ma'am. He's not there. And his phone is off." Off. That single word, small and sharp as a pin, popped the beautiful bubble of the day. A cold dread began to creep up Elara's spine, chilling her to the bone despite the warm afternoon light. The bride's room, once a sanctuary of joy, became a war room. Elara's father, Arthur, a man who built empires and despised chaos, was already barking into his phone, his face a mask of fury. And this was chaos, but Elara was eerily calm. A terrifying stillness had settled over her as the whispers and panic swirled around her. She picked up her own phone, dialed Mark, straight to voicemail. Her thumb hovered over another contact. Maya, the best friend. She pressed the call, straight to voicemail. 2 phones, switched off. Together, the betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It was a probability, cold and hard as steel. And then the final blow. A junior caterer, looking terrified, shuffled into the room. In her hand was a single, crisp piece of paper. "Excuse me, Miss Elara. We found this, tucked into the base of the cake stand." Elara took the note. The room fell silent. She unfolded it. It was Mark's handwriting, and then she began to read aloud. Her voice started as a whisper, trembling with disbelief, but with each word it hardened, turning to ice. "Elara, I'm sorry. You're brilliant, but you're a blueprint. A perfect, predictable plan. Maya is the adventure. The contract with Elara Industries is secure. I don't need your help anymore. Don't look for us. Blueprint. Adventure." He had taken the empire she helped him build and eloped with the architect of her humiliation. The contract was his victory lap. He thought she would collapse. He was wrong. Elara stood up. The silk of her dress rustled like a suit of armor. Her face was a mask of terrifying, calculated resolve. "Tell the guests there will be a slight delay." She walked to the entrance of the chapel. 200 faces turned to her, a symphony of pity and curiosity, but Elara didn't see them. Her mind was already working on a new, desperate algorithm. Damage control, revenge, survival. And then her gaze stopped. At the very back of the church, looking as out of place as a sparrow in an aviary of peacocks, was a man. He wasn't a guest, she recognized. He was handsome, but in an unpolished way. What mattered was that he was there, and he was looking right at her, not with pity, but with a deep, unnerving curiosity. Without a second thought, Elara began to walk, not down the aisle to the empty altar, but through the crowd directly towards him. A wave of gasps and whispers followed her, a ripple in the sea of stunned guests. She stopped right in front of him. She leaned in close, her voice a low, urgent whisper that only he could hear. "I don't know who you are, and right now, I don't care. I will give you $50,000 right now to stand at that altar with me for the next 10 minutes. Just say I do." He was utterly stunned, but unlike any sane person, he didn't look afraid. He looked fascinated. His eyes searched hers, and he saw it all, the fire, the iron will, the complete absence of tears. He saw a partner, not a victim. A slow, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. He nodded. He didn't ask questions. He didn't hesitate. He simply nodded. Elara took his hand, his grip was surprisingly firm, and led him back through the parted crowd. The whispers were deafening now. She practically dragged him to the altar, where a completely flustered officiant stood, sweating under the stained glass windows. The officiant, seeing the determination in Elara's eyes, skipped every tradition. "Do you, Elara? Take this man?" Elara's "I do" was sharp, definitive, a sword thrust into the heart of the day's betrayal. Then the officiant, his voice cracking, turned to the stranger groom. "And do you, sir? Do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" He hesitated. For a breath that felt like an eternity, the entire church held its breath with him. He looked at this stunning, furious stranger who was now, in a way, his wife, and he opened his mouth to answer. What would he say? Would he play his part in this insane act of defiance? Or was this the beginning of a different, more dangerous kind of adventure? Before we find out his answer, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because this story of revenge, secrets, and unexpected love is only just beginning. You won't want to miss what happens next. The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of a shattered dream. Do you take this woman? The officiant began, his voice trailing off into the stunned silence of the chapel. The groom was gone. In his place, a stranger. A man in an ill-fitting suit who hesitated, but only for a second. His eyes, a startling shade of blue, locked with Elara's. He saw the fire there, the fury, the sheer, desperate need to not be seen as a victim. And in that moment, he made his choice. He said, with a quiet confidence that cut through the silence, I do. There was no celebratory kiss. The moment they were pronounced husband and wife, the illusion shattered. This wasn't a romance. It was a transaction. Elara signed the marriage license with furious, jagged strokes of the pen and practically shoved her new husband into a waiting taxi. The car pulled away from the curb, leaving the gawking wedding guests behind. Inside, the silence was suffocating. Elara was a statue carved from rage and disbelief. And then the stranger spoke. His voice was calm, with an unexpected undercurrent of dry humor. The name's Kai, he said, turning to her. And just for the record, most first dates involve coffee, not holy matrimony. Elara didn't even crack a smile. She was all business. She reached into her clutch, pulled out a checkbook, and scribbled a check for $50,000. She held it out to him, her expression a mask of cold finality. Our business is concluded. Thank you for your services. She had directed the cab to a discreet, expensive hotel bar. In the dim, moody lighting, Kai looked down at the check, not with the greed she expected, but with a thoughtful, almost curious expression. Then he slid it back across the small table. Keep your money, he said, his gaze meeting hers. But I'll take you up on the arrangement. He leaned forward, proposing a new deal, a 1-month marriage. He explained he was new to the city, a businessman who needed to appear stable, settled. A wife, he claimed, would open doors that were currently closed to him. In return, she would get what she needed, a husband, a shield against the vicious gossip, a stable front from which to plan her revenge against the man who had humiliated her. Elara was skeptical. It all seemed too convenient. Why? She asked, her voice sharp. Why would you do this? What do you really want? Let's just say I appreciate audacity, Kai replied, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. And I find myself curious to see what happens next. She saw the cold, hard logic in his proposal. It wasn't about emotion. It was a business deal. A merger of convenience. Fine, she could work with that. All right, she agreed, but immediately laid down a set of ironclad rules. Separate bedrooms. No public displays of affection beyond what's necessary. No real attachment. This is purely a contract. A slow, secretive smile spread across Kai's face. A business merger. I like that, he said, his eyes gleaming with an unreadable light. I have a feeling this will be a very profitable partnership for both of us. Kai's apartment wasn't just an apartment. It was a sprawling penthouse with a view that could steal your breath away. The entire city glittered below them like a carpet of diamonds. It was sleek, modern, and expensive, but it felt temporary, impersonal, like a stage set waiting for the real play to begin. Just as a fragile sense of calm began to settle, the sharp ring of the doorbell shattered it. Elara opened the door to find her father, Arthur Vance, standing in the doorway. His expression was a storm cloud of concern and simmering fury. His gaze swept the room, taking in every detail, before landing on Kai. It wasn't a look of disdain, but the intense, calculated scrutiny of a king assessing a new player on his chessboard. Elara, he said, his voice a low rumble. He crossed the room in 2 long strides and pulled her into a brief, tight embrace, holding her by the shoulders as his eyes searched hers. When I think of what that spineless coward did to you. He trailed off, but the unspoken promise of retribution hung heavy in the air. Then he turned his full attention to Kai. And you must be the man who saved my daughter from becoming a permanent spectacle, Arthur said. His tone shifted, losing some of its raw anger and gaining a measured, albeit gruff, respect. He extended a hand. Arthur Vance, I owe you a debt I'm not sure I can ever repay. Kai's handshake was firm, meeting Arthur's testing grip without flinching. Kai, sir. It was an unusual situation, he replied, his gaze steady and direct. Unusual, Arthur repeated, a grim, approving smile touching his lips. That's one word for it. It was a stroke of brilliant madness. He released Kai's hand and began to pace slowly, like a predator mapping his new territory. Do you know what that man, Mark, was before my daughter found him? Arthur's voice dripped with contempt. Nothing. A man with ambition, but no blueprint. Elara saw something in him, and I invested in that. I opened every single door she pointed to. I gave him the tools to build his empire because she believed he was worth it. He stopped pacing, the full force of his anger now directed at the ghost of the absent groom. And how did he repay her faith? By stealing her designs and eloping with the decorator. He took the empire we handed him on a silver platter and spat on the throne. Arthur's sharp, calculating eyes looked from his daughter to Kai. So, you see, Kai, you're not competing with some self-made man. "You're standing in the ruins that a fool left behind. And from where I'm standing, the man who had the courage to step into the chaos and shield my daughter from the fallout is worth 10 of the man who ran from it." He walked to the door, pausing with his hand on the knob. "The Ethelgerd contract signing is tomorrow. Mark will be there, representing the company I helped him build." A cold, ruthless smile finally broke through his anger. "I do hope you'll both attend. It would be a shame for him not to see the formidable partnership that rose from the ashes of his stupidity." As Arthur said the word Ethelgerd, a strange flicker of recognition, a spark of almost private amusement, crossed Kai's features. It was there for an instant, and then gone. So quickly, Elara wondered if she had imagined it. Arthur left, and the door clicked shut with a note of finality. Elara stood there, stunned by her father's unwavering support. The anger she had been holding on to, the defensiveness she had prepared for, all melted away into a surge of gratitude and renewed purpose. "I have to be at that signing," she declared, her voice filled with a new, determined energy. Kai looked at her, his gaze intense, his earlier humor replaced by something much more serious. "Don't worry," he said, his voice soft but laced with steel. "I have a feeling it will be a day neither of them ever forgets." His words were a cryptic vow, a promise of something more than just support. The paper marriage had just gained a powerful, unexpected ally. The battlefield for tomorrow was set, and the game was about to get a whole lot more interesting. If you're as curious as I am to see what happens next, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications now. The boardroom at Ethelgerd Industries was more than just a room. It was a temple dedicated to power, a place where fortunes were made and empires were forged. And on this day, at the head of the long, polished table, sat Mark, preening like a king on his throne. Beside him, radiating smug satisfaction, was Maya. Together, they were the very picture of victory, basking in the glow of their treachery. They had stolen everything from Elara, and now they were about to be rewarded for it. She was supposed to be broken, a jilted bride left shattered in their wake. But when the heavy oak doors swung open, it wasn't a victim who walked in. It was a queen. And beside her stood her king, Kai, the man she had hired to be her stand-in groom, now transformed. Gone was the simple, slightly rumpled man Elara had married. In his place stood someone who looked like he'd been born in a boardroom. His suit was impeccably tailored, his presence radiating a quiet confidence that made even the titans of industry in the room take notice. It was instantly visible, the flicker of shock, then fear in Mark's eyes. His smug smile vanished, replaced by a tight, forced one. "Elara, what a surprise," Mark managed to say, his voice dripping with condescension. He looked from Elara to Kai, a sneer playing on his lips. "I see you've rebounded quickly." He then launched into his presentation, a self-congratulatory speech about the merger he was about to sign. Every word was a carefully aimed dart, meant to belittle Kai, to paint him as nothing more than a temporary plaything Elara had picked up. He wanted to humiliate her, to show everyone in the room that she was a fool. Elara braced herself for the impact, but it never came. Instead, Kai spoke. His voice was calm, almost conversational, yet it sliced through Mark's blustering monologue like a surgeon's scalpel. "That's an interesting projection for Q3, Kai began, his tone deceptively mild. "Given the recent and very public supply chain disruptions in the tech sector, how exactly do you justify those numbers?" A ripple of murmurs went around the table. Mark blinked, completely thrown off his script. He hadn't expected a challenge, especially not from the man he'd already dismissed as insignificant. But Kai wasn't finished. He pressed his advantage, his questions becoming sharper, more precise. And your contingency plan? The one for if your key material supplier merger falls through? From this prospectus, it appears to be a single point of failure for the entire operation. A rather risky gamble, wouldn't you say? Each question was a masterful strike, exposing the flaws in Mark's plan that no one else had dared to point out. Mark stumbled over his answers, his carefully constructed confidence cracking and then crumbling into dust. The room watched, captivated, as the golden boy of the hour was intellectually dismantled. A wave of pure, thrilling vindication washed over Elara. This was everything she had hoped for and more. But beneath that triumph, a cold, creeping doubt began to form. Who was this man standing beside her? This wasn't just luck or a quick study of a business report. Kai knew exactly where to strike, hitting every single weak point in Mark's armor. Just as Elara was processing this, the head of the legal department entered the room, his expression grave. He hurried to the senior executive at the head of the table and whispered urgently in his ear. The executive's face hardened. He stood, his gaze fixing on Mark with icy disapproval. "Mr. Thornwood," he announced, his voice booming through the now silent room. "We've just received new directives from the very top. This signing is on hold, effective immediately, pending a full and thorough review of your company's leadership ethics. Leadership ethics." The words hung in the air, a direct and devastating reference to the scandal Mark and Maya had created. Mark looked like he'd been physically struck, his face pale and his posture defeated. Her revenge was perfect, but her eyes were locked on Kai. He simply met her gaze and gave a slight, almost imperceptible shrug. It was too perfect. Back in the penthouse, the adrenaline from the boardroom showdown had faded, leaving only a storm of questions. The revenge felt hollow now, overshadowed by the mystery of the man who had delivered it. Elara turned to face him, her voice tight. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Those questions you asked? That wasn't just a lucky guess. You knew exactly where to hit him, where it would hurt the most." Kai offered a small, disarming smile, trying to deflect. "I read the business section. Sometimes it pays off." He was lying and they both knew it. But instead of pushing, he changed tactics. He disarmed her with a different kind of honesty. He spoke of a life spent in the shadow of immense wealth, of growing up never knowing if people liked him for who he was, or for the money his family had. He confessed a deep-seated desire to be seen, to be valued, just for the man he was inside without the gilded cage of his name. His vulnerability was a mirror, reflecting Elara's own secrets back at her. She found herself opening up in return, telling him about her own hidden identity as an heiress, about the fortune she kept concealed, about her own fears of being wanted for her money instead of herself. In that moment, they were no longer a vengeful heiress and her hired husband. They were just Elara and Kai, two sides of the same coin, both hiding their true worth from a world that only seemed to value the superficial. The artificial walls of their arrangement, the lines they'd drawn between them, began to crumble into dust. The air in the room grew thick, crackling, with an undeniable magnetic attraction. He leaned in, his eyes searching hers, and she leaned in to meet him. This was real. This connection, this pull, it was intoxicating. The space between their lips vanished, the world narrowing to this single, breathless moment. And then a shrill, piercing ringtone shattered the silence. The sound was a violent intrusion, tearing them apart. Kai's phone, discarded on the table, lit up the dim room. Elara's eyes involuntarily flickered to the screen. The caller ID glowed with two words that made her blood run cold. Ethelgard Board Chairman. Kai pulled back as if he had been burned, the warmth and vulnerability in his eyes instantly replaced by a cool, impenetrable mask of business. "I have to take this," he said, his voice clipped and distant. He turned and walked out onto the balcony, leaving Elara alone in the sudden, deafening silence, the ghost of their almost kiss hanging in the air, like a question she was terrified to answer. Why? Why would the chairman of the board of Ethelgard Industries be calling my supposedly average diner-working husband so late at night? Sleep was impossible. Elara's mind raced, replaying the day's events over and over. The boardroom, Kai's brilliant takedown of Mark, his confession, their near kiss, and that phone call. Nothing made sense. Unable to lie still any longer, she crept out of the bedroom and into the living area. As she tiptoed toward the kitchen for a glass of water, her foot caught on something in the dark. It was Kai's briefcase, which she had mistakenly knocked off the chair. It fell to the floor with a soft thud, spilling its contents across the polished wood. With a sigh of frustration, she knelt down to gather the scattered papers. Just business reports, folders, pens, the usual. But as she collected them, her fingers brushed against a small, thick piece of cardstock, its edges embossed with a subtle design. Curious, she picked it up. It was a business card. She turned it over, angling it so the sliver of moonlight from the window could illuminate the text. The world didn't just stop. It tilted on its axis and shattered into a million pieces. The moonlight caught the elegant, raised lettering, and she read the name that would change everything. The card read, Caius Sterling, Chief Executive Officer, Ethelgerd Industries. Caius Sterling, CEO. The man at the very, very top. The man who owned the company Mark was so desperate to merge with. The man whose new directives had halted the deal. The man she had found at the end of the church hall and offered to pay to marry her for revenge. The pieces didn't just fall into place. They crashed together with the force of a tidal wave. The stranger from the wedding hall was no stranger. The simple, poor man was a prince. No, not a prince. He was the king of the entire empire. And Elara had just invited him into her home, into her life, never realizing that all along, she wasn't the one holding all the cards. He was. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think Elara will do now that she knows the truth? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story.